Welcome back. This is the continuation of the video series that I'm doing on Vite, Vue, and Ionic Capacitor. In the last video, we made some changes to the application to quickly integrate Firebase. We showed how to use the Firebase Emulator, but we only showed how to add documents and pull documents back. We're going to step it up this time around, and we're going to use the, what do they have here? The authentication part of the emulator, which we did not use last time. So we're going to add login, and we are going to add some protected routes so that hopefully what we'll have in our UI is at launch, we will prompt you to log in. And then these pages, the 2 tab pages, will be considered protected pages that can only be accessed if you are authenticated. So if you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe, please like, please share with your friends, and let's get to the code. So the first thing we're going to do here in main.ts, you see we have all this Firebase code. We're going to move all the Firebase code out to its own separate file. So let's go over here to services and create a Firebase service file. We're going to take all of the Firebase related code from main.ts here. So we'll start right here at the Firebase imports, and we're going to take all of this code and pull it out. We will come over to Firebase service. We will add it all here to Firebase service. What we want to do is at startup, we don't want to really do any of this stuff, so we're going to comment all this out. We'll reuse it again later, but for now, we're going to comment it out. Let's try again. So no more calling Firebase. All we want to do is just get Firestore going and connect to the emulator. But let's export the database in case we need it somewhere else. We'll remove this console log because I don't think that's important at this point. And what we want to do is we want to connect. Right now, we're just connecting to the Firestore emulator. We need to also connect to the authentication emulator. And so first of all, you can see here it's got this port number of 990. And if we look in the code, you need to, the same way you connect to the emulator, you need to connect to authentication. So I think it's connect Firebase Auth. Is that what it is? All right, well, I know I need to import Firebase Auth, so let's do this. Import and then we can figure out what it is thanks to the beauty of TypeScript. So we'll just go in here and we'll say connect auth emulator and get auth. And so now, I spelled this wrong. So now we're back here, we're going to say connect auth emulator. It wants an auth instance, so get auth, and then the URL. And it looks like, yes, so we can copy this because the URL should be running at this port. So 1099. So this is a storage emulator, and this is auth. And so they're connected. The other thing that we need to do is for the database, we were able to get by with just a project ID, but for authentication, we need the API key. So we're going to need to go over to our project and pull our API key from our Firebase SDK. So now we have our Firebase app initialized. We have our database, which we are exporting. And we have added the setup for Firestore emulator and for connected to the auth emulator. So now our backend's all set up. We have our main.ts here. So the next thing we need to do is actually try to log in. So we will need to add some new views. So let's go over here and add views, add a folder, auth. And inside of here, we'll add 2 pages, SignIn page, and let's add another SignUp page. we have our two view pages. We already went in with Ionic, so let's just continue with that for now. So I know this is a basic page that we want. So it's got the page, the header, all the other stuff. So let's just take all of this for the template, and we'll pull the beginning of the setup because we know we need all those Ionic imports. So let's take all that stuff and let's go to our, what are we gonna do? Let's create a user first. No, we're gonna start with our SignIn page. So we don't need our action sheet and we don't need any of that stuff. We have our setup, and we're going to, actually in our login page, we are not going to have a toolbar. Sure, I don't think we're gonna have a header at all. We're just gonna have our content. I'm just gonna paste in the page, and then what we will do is I'll just kind of explain what's going on for those who aren't familiar with the Ionic components. So let's leave the header, and now let's paste in some content. We're going to remove the toolbar. And now let's just kind of explain some of what we have going on. Assets, so we'll remove this for now. Okay, so we've seen the Ionic header before. That's what's going to give us this home page, title page. That's what the header is. And as usual, the content is where all the Ionic code goes. And so you'll see I'm leveraging some of the styling and utility classes that are provided with Ionic. So of course it centers the text and it puts the default padding around that field. Actually, it'll probably be easier to explain once I have the code up. So let's just kind of try to resolve the errors, and then we'll render the page and kind of explain what's going on. So we need our username, and we need a password, and we need a function, and we need the router. So let's just start with them. Use Ion. So we want to import use Ion router, and then we're going to do const router equals use Ion router. What? Is it just in Ionic Vue? Let's see. Yes, sorry, it's in Ionic Vue. So that's our router. Now we need our functions, and then we need our refs. So let's import ref from Vue, and then let's const, I think it's username, and then let's see, username, and then our last thing is our login function. Is it just plain old login? No, we're calling it sign up, so let's call this sign in. Let's stick with the camel case we're currently using. And so const on sign in. We know this is probably going to be async, so let's just put it in now, and then let's return null. So let's see if we can at least get this page up. So this is page. Oh, I need to update my router. So let's go to our router, and let's put this at the top level for now. And we are going to lazy load our component. Change this to sign in auth sign in page, and did it. Okay, so that's our sign in page. While I'm here, let me just put the other route in. Sign up, and we'll change this to sign up. Sign up page. So now we have our two routes in. So let's see if we can see our sign in. And so this is our login page. And let's do our sign up page real quickly. Let's take our same sign in page, go to sign up, and we're going to add one other thing here. Add a display name, and we will put that right above the username here. And we'll just say full name. And we will call it display name ref that we already have. Let's kind of change all this. We'll check false, autocomplete false require. Okay. So let's see if our sign up page looks right. All right, so this is our sign up page. You just need to fix our buttons. So let's go down here, and so this is, let's switch this to sign up. And then let's change this to sign up. And update our function below on sign up. And so that's sign up, and then this will be cancel. And then we'll use our router, and we just want to go back. I think it's sorry, it's just back. So let's see if we have our, so cancel. I go back to my sign up. I go back to my log sign in page. Let's change this text here to sign in. Where are we? Let's kind of close this so we have a little bit more space. All right, so we want to change this to sign in. So we have our sign in or sign up, we have our fields, we have our routes moving as they should. I think the next thing that we want to do is to, first let's make sure that our sign in works. Our sign up works, because we need to create an account before we can actually log in. All right, it's complaining here. Oh, I'm missing some. So I'm missing my ion column. And then I'm probably missing my ion row. And let's save. Let's go back to our, this is our ion column. So what's happening is we're getting these warnings because I haven't imported this row, this column. And what else? Let's see. Oh, I have the button. So it looks like just row and column. So let's add these to my sign up page. Let's clear this, refresh it. Okay, looks like I'm still missing a couple of imports. So let's just go through the errors and get the imports. So, I'm missing a bunch. So we need our ion item, ion label, ion input, and ion list. All right, so basically what was happening, all these warnings were saying that, hey, you're using all of these Ionic framework components, but you haven't imported any of them. And it looks like we are all good now. So let's just take this additional list of items that we needed and make sure we put them on our SignIn page, because that's going to generate the same errors. And then now let's clear this. Let's go back to our SignIn page, and we're not getting any of those errors, warnings anymore. Okay, so we have our UI there, but now we need to actually get some users inside of our emulator, right? Because there's none logged in yet. So let's go to our sign up page, and we are going to need we need to fill out this function for sign up. And I think I can figure it out from, let's see if I can figure it out going to the doc. If I import from Firebase Auth, just by the fact that I have the import, I can type ahead and with TypeScript it'll help me figure it out. And it's create user with email and password. And I suspect I'm going to need auth, so let's do a get auth. So I have get auth there. And then let's come down here and we can say create user with email and password. It needs auth, so we'll do our get auth. And then we will use our username, which is our email, and then our password. And sorry, these need to be value. So we have those set, and then we should get a response, const response. And then what we want to do is, the next thing we want to do is we want to set the display name. So I think it's update. What is it? It's update profile. And then it's the user object, and then display name, and we're just going to set it with this display name that we already have. So that'll add the display name to the user, so we should get that back. What is it complaining about? But the two arguments only got one. Oh, I need to give it the user that I want to update. So we'll take response, and we have a user on the response object. So there we go. And why is it complaining about, oh, display name dot value. It does return a promise. So hey, wait. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this whole thing with try catch. Error. And if there's an error, we're going to return error. If there's no error, then we are just going to return data, and we will set data to be our user. So this is our sign up. Creates user in database and adds display name. Let's give this a go and see if we actually can get something to happen. Actually, I don't know why I'm returning any data. Oh, I think what I want to do is I want to keep all the Firebase stuff in our Firebase services. So let's copy this code, go to Firebase services, and paste our code here, and then we're going to export this function, and then we will assume we get our username, password, display name, all passed in. Let's set all these to string. And then let's move our import. So basically what I want to do is I want to isolate all my Firebase stuff really just into one file, so I don't have Firebase code spread all over. So let's go back up here. I already have my get auth, so I need my create user with email password added, and then these are all strings, so the values will be passed. So I can just change all these back to string. And I forgot, let's add our update profile up here. And so now our sign up is created, and we are exporting the function on sign up. So let's go back to our sign up page, and we could take all of this code that we had, and we can remove it. It's called. So we're going to call lead our functions with Firebase. So now let's go back here and change this to on Firebase sign up. And let's import this. And on our error now, let's just console debug error. And here, let's console debug response. All right, let's see if we can get a user added into our the authentication part in our emulator. So let's go back here. Go to sign up. See, it lets us know we're running in the emulator. Aaron user. Username. Actually, I should, let's just be clear. Let's stop saying username. Okay, so email. Okay, let's just be consistent. Let's fix it in here too. Email. All right, so we're back on our SignUp page. Let's go to sign up. It's got our email in. Let's put my name, Aaron. This is really need to be a real mailing address. So let's say Aaron@mail, and password 123. And let's do a sign up. Response await, const await. So it looks like I'm just returning promises, which is not what I wanted to do. So this is async await return data. So that's what gets returned. And if I go back to my sign up page, I need to await here. There we go. So let's pull this back into full view so we can see what's going on. Let's refresh. I'll just leave the default information that's in there. Let me make sure the password is something that I will know so we can test it later. And let's do sign up. So it looks like it already created that account. So let's go to my emulator, refresh. And yeah, it's already created that account. So let's delete it. This is pulling in default information. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so no users. And let's try to create this user here. And let's change this to something that I can remember. And we got our newly created user with the display name set and the email. And then we can look into our emulator and we can refresh it and we can see that we have this user created. So we have our sign up. And now that sign up is done, it should be pretty straightforward to get sign in going. So kind of move things out of the way again. And we're going to follow the same pattern. So we will just copy this code here from our sign in page. Let's go to our, it's our sign up page. And let's go to our sign in page. And change this to on sign in. We're going to call our function Firebase sign in. And we're just going to pass an email and password. Did I change? No, let's change this to email here. No, this should be change all of my username to Firebase. So let's change all. Email, name, email. Let's change our type to email. Okay. So this will be called on sign in. Yes. On sign in. And we just need to go create this function now. So let's copy this and let's go back to our Firebase services. And we're going to follow the same pattern here. So let's, I like to minimize my typing, so let's just copy all this stuff. And Firebase sign in. No display name. Don't need to update the profile. And what we want to do here is sign in. Let's just go to Firebase Auth, our import, and get some help with this function. So sign in with email and password. We'll go down here. We'll use our new sign in with email and password. We can hover over it and see it's pretty much the same. We need our auth. We need our auth. We need our password, and then it returns a promise. So let's just make sure that the promise that we get, so we get a response, which is user credential, and off of that is our user. Yep, is our user that we will return, and then we'll return our error down here. There's an error. I can remove this. We don't need that. in the user. So that will sign in our user. So let's give it a go. So let's cancel, go to our sign. This is our sign-in page. Let's go back to our sign-in page. It's complaining because I need to import this guy. So let's import it. So you can see we have our Firebase sign-in. So we have our email, Firebase sign-in, successful response, log it out. Let's do one other thing, and that is, let's fix this. Okay, so we have our email address, we have our password. I believe I changed this. Let's give us some room so we can see our response, and then let's try our sign-in. Wrong path, let's see. So I put my full name. Did I put password 123? Yeah, that was my password. So let's cancel this. Let's go back. And my sign-in worked, and my user came back. So I've just logged in my user. I showed you how to create the user. I showed you how to sign in the user, and we've kind of isolated, let's move this, our functions into our Firebase service. So the next thing we want to do is actually connect the routes. We need to make sure that we have our private routes, which are the create account and the sign in and the sign out, and then our public account should actually be the home page. So that's what we're going to move on to next. Okay, now that we know how to create a user and to sign in a user, let's actually update our router to appropriately manage the state of an authenticated user or an unauthenticated user. Also, the thing to note is that Firebase keeps track of the user if you have previously logged in a user. And so if we click over here to the Manage User page in the Firebase documentation, they have a recommended way of getting the currently signed in user. And they recommend that you use this observer here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our Firebase service, and here in our auth section, we are going to add this code. And what this will do is this will check to see if I have an authenticated user. And this will run when we load this module, this Firebase service module. So we're good to add this code in here. And what we'll do is we'll use a Vue ref. So let's export this. So export const current user. And we'll set that equal to a ref, and that ref will be a user or null. We'll initialize it to null. And this user, we're going to import this from Firebase. And then this onAuthStateChange, we will import that from Firebase also. And then here we'll just do a get auth to get our auth from Firebase. And then what we will do, let's import ref from Vue. And then what we'll do here is instead of setting this UID, we're going to set our current user. So we'll set our current user value will equal user. And that's the user that we get back from here. And let's console it out. Console. Console bug current user.value. So that'll get us, if the user signed out, we have no user, but we'll just put something down here. Console debug. All right. So let's see what. So this should run when we run our app. So if we pull our debug back over, and let's clear this out. Let's refresh our page, and I have no user. So let's sign in a user. Oh, I didn't assign my user value. So let's do this. Let's say current user.value is equal to the user object that I got back from this listener. So now let's refresh it, because I should have the user that I logged in initially. And so here's my user that I logged in with initially, and here's all the information. So we have a way now to get hold of the user. And then what we want to do is we want to leverage that inside of our router. So if we go inside of our router here, each router has a hook or event listener, and it's router beforeEach. And inside here, let's just do this. Let's just console debug, and then we're going to use our current user, which should have just auto imported, see, from our Firebase service. And so here we'll just log out our current user value. So it seems like it's getting hit once with a null, and then it finds the user, and that's not good because we need it to execute before any of the route does. So how are we going to make that happen? So we're going to move all this into an initialize function. And for now, all we'll do inside of here is just execute this call. And what we will do is, so we'll have this call done, and we want this to be async. Do we? Actually, let's make this a promise. And I think all we really need is a resolve here. And then let's move all this code inside of here. Uh-oh, that's wrong. We're making this thing a promise because we want to make sure that this thing is completed before we do anything else in the application. We've set our user, so let's just resolve this with the current user. Let's move it inside of here. So whenever the auth state changes, it resolves it. Okay, and so now let's move our initialize Firebase into my main.ts, and then let's do this. Initialize Firebase. And then only after it's initialized will we do the rest of the initial setup of the application. All right. So now you can see when we run our router, we actually do have a user before anything else happens, because we're setting up the user inside of the initialize Firebase, and initialize Firebase is being called before anything else. So let's refresh this again so you can see. This user is coming from here. Let's remove that one. Let's say that firebase-service. Let's just delete these users. Okay. So that's coming from our router. So we know now that we will have our router, we will have our user, whether or not we have a user, when we attempt to access any route, because this is being called before each one. So now what we could do is we could come in here and say if. What I want to do is, did I add the meta? Yes, off of your routes, you have this property called meta where you can hang off anything that you want. What we're going to do is we're going to come down here, we're going to say meta, and then we're going to say requires, R-E-Q-U-I, requires auth. So we're going to say this path requires an authentication check. And we're just going to put it, I think it should be fine just putting it at the tab root since it is the parent, and this way you shouldn't be able to access any of the child routes without going to the parent. So if I just put the requires auth here, it should be good. We don't need the requires auth on signup or SignIn. And so then now down here inside of our beforeEach, we could say if requires, inside of beforeEach, you can see we get passed some information, and one of the things that we get passed is the to route. And so I should, and if I'm correct, let's console log. So what we can do is let's delete this and let's put 2 here. So we should see the path we're going to, and if I have a current user. So you can see the path that I'm going to is SignIn. So that's the path information, and then I do have a user. So I can look at this, and what I'm going to do is on my 2, not matched, but my meta, my sign-in user, you can see it doesn't have that flag on it. But if I try to go to home, you can see my full path here is home, and my meta says required auth is true. And so what I want to do is if I don't have a user, I don't want the user to be able to go to this page. So let's go back here, slide this, and we're going to say before each, if 2 dot meta dot requires auth, and there's no current user dot value, then, so if you require auth and there's no user, then we want to redirect you to return path. And we want to send you back to login. Oh, not login. Sign in. Otherwise, we're just going to let you roll through. So if 2 meta requires auth and there's no current user, then go to sign in. So we do have a current user, and so that's why we're here on my home page. So if I go to sign in, I'm here on my sign in page, and that works as it should. And then home, that works as it should. But let's go to my Firebase emulator, so I haven't done logout yet, and let's just delete this user. So now I have no user. And let's refresh, let's go back here. Let's see what happens. It has no user, so it's redirected me to the sign in page. And let's try to go to my home page. No user, so it comes back to my sign in page. Let's see if I can get to my sign up page. So I can get to my sign up page because it's not checking this requires auth. So I think that should be good enough now for us to check and see if everything works correctly. So let's see if I can cancel. Let's see if I can sign in my user. It should have the information already. So, oh no, the thing I'm missing is after I sign in, I want to redirect. So let's go back to my sign in page. So sign in. If everything's good here on sign in, then I want to do router, replace home, take me to home. And I want to do the exact same thing. So that's my sign in. I want to do the exact same thing on my sign up. All right, so let's see how this works. Let's kind of open this up. Let's see if we get any errors. Let's clear our errors out, and I'll sign in. Oh, user not found. I deleted my user. So I'm going to clean this up and kind of give us a better alert dialog. So let's go to sign up first. And let's go in here, put my user in. Sign up. And it redirected me to my home page. It has my user. And then now if I just completely hard refresh my page, it takes me back to my page because I have my signed in user. Okay, now that we have our protected pages, and we're able to log in user, let's start to protect access to data. So as you know, Firebase has rules. So well, first let's show what we're trying to do. What we're going to do for now is we're not going to make it pretty, but we're going to go to our home page. And here on our home page, let's start to clear out some of this stuff. I'm going to take everything out. And what we want to do here is let's try and access our data in Firebase. So let's go to Firebase services. And there's our auth functions. There's our connection. Let's start to use some of these old functions. So let's pull out, this just gets our data, our documents. So let's add, so we have a auth function section. And let's add a data functions. ONS. And then here we're going to say const export. Const get all some docs. So this will get all of the documents from the collection some docs. Get all it's from some docs collection. And we're going to take that code we wrote in the first video. I'm going to drop it in here. We're going to uncomment this. And let's make this async. And you can see, I mean, it worked in the last one, so it's going to work again. But let's wrap this with the try catch. And then if we have an error, we're going to just return the error. If we have some data here, then we'll return data. Oh, I need to clean up the data because that's what we did last time. So let's get that clean. So what is this? Oh, I brought over the wrong code anyway. I don't want that code. I want this code. I want the get docs code. So let's get this here. and drop it in here. Remove the comments. Remember, this is code we wrote once already, so watch the previous video if you want to kind of understand what's going on here. And so now here what we'll do is we'll return data clean array. Okay. And what we will do is we will drop this in our home page. Remove this action sheet. I think we can move all these functions from here. And then all we need to do is go down here and let's just remove all this. And what we'll do is on Vue did enter, we'll call that function, what we call it, get all some docs. Make this async. And we're calling this on Vue did enter because what we want to do is we want to make sure every time this page is entered that we get the latest data. And that got auto imported, so you can see it's right there. And then all we'll do up in here is we will just do a pre, and we'll do a stringify my data. So just some docs data value equals data. And let's create a ref for our some docs. Some docs data equals ref. Import ref from Vue. And let's change this to some docs data. Well, all right. Okay, now, so there's my data. I only have one document in there, and that's it rendered. Let's go to our suite and look at our document to make sure. So this is our document, so it's showing our one doc. So you saw how it allowed me to access that document, and it allowed me to access that document without checking for any authentication state. So what we want to do is we want to add some Firebase rules to only allow you to get this if you are logged in. And in order to do that, let's go and first add our Firebase rules. To add the Firebase rules, you're going to need to go and make some configuration changes. So go into your Firebase JSON file, and then what we want to do is add a new property. Actually, let me check the doc to make Firestore, and then off of that, rules, and then where we're going to put our rules. And we're just going to create a file called Firestore, and I believe it doesn't like those quotes. Okay. And then what we'll do is we'll create a file called Firestore rules right here at the same level. And we will put some rules in. And so let's go over here to the documentation and look at the basic security rules. And so the basic security rules say that no one can read or write. So let's drop that in just so we can see it working. Okay, and remember, after you put the rules in, you're going to have to shut down your emulator. Let's go to our emulator here and shut it down with Control-C. Everything's stopped. And now let's start it up again. And then now let's go back to our app and refresh. And I shut it down, so I got to put my user back Because remember, after you refresh, everything gets shut. You lose everything. There is some way to kind of save it and be able to reload your data. We'll cover that in a later video, but for now, we'll just quickly put the user back in. So we'll go to sign up, and we'll set our password. Sign up. Our user signs up, but you see we have no data. So we have no data because, let's refresh this, but let's refresh it. We'll see what it says. So let's see. I have my rules. So it says no one should be allowed to read or write. Let's take a look at our home page. And we're executing this call. Let's check. Let's see if we got an error. And let's do this. If error console error. And let's refresh the page. And we're getting an error back from Firebase. False for list level 4. I have no idea what that error means. So let's see if we can go a little deeper. Let's go into my Firebase service. Let's debug here. Actually, let's start right at the top and see what's going on. All right, so we hit our debugger. Let's move all this stuff out of our way. Come on. Let's step and see what we get. So it's just false for list. I have never seen that error before. Let's save that for a later time. Let's go in and put some temporary data in here. So let's start a collection, some docs. Save, and have our first document. Let's add a field. I believe it's name, test. And then let's add another field is created at timestamp. Save. All right, now let's go back to our app. And let's run it again. Oh, that's basically, all right, there's nothing wrong. That's basically saying I can't read that. Let's try, I just realized every time I need to change. So basically now that I'm about to change my rules again, so if I'm going to say true to allow everybody to have access to it, right? Please update to the latest version, version 2. Let's see if me just changing it to true solves the problem. Yep, that gave me access. And then now I have my document. Change rules. Please update to latest version. Let's see. Oh, it looks like I just need to set this version. All right, so this error means that I need to just put this code at the top to say what version it is. So I set my rules to 2. It's updated it. Let's go back to my application. Let's refresh. Everything's fine. Let's do a hard refresh. Let this run, and we're getting our code. So now that I set it to true, that's letting anybody in. But what we really want to do is, if you notice that over here, when you look at the rules that it's processing, it gives you detailed information. And so on here, this shows that I do have an authenticated user when I made this call. It gives me the method, that was the list. So that's probably what that error was before. The path, what data I'm trying to get, the query, the time, and the resource. So what we're going to do is we're only going to allow you to read or write if you're authenticated. And that was also covered here. So this vault rule is locked. This is all authenticated users. So this will basically say if my request auth is not null, then let the individual in. So we're gonna set, that's what we're gonna use for now. What we want to get to is the point where only the authenticated user can modify their stuff, and that's, let's see, this content owner only access. And basically what this will do, if I have some collection and I provide a user ID, it will only allow the user with that ID to access that content. But we'll get to that later. Right now we're basically saying if you're authenticated, you can access the data. So let's get back to our app. And it looks like it updated our rule set. We have our data showing. Well, let me remove that comment. So where was that? That was in Firebase services. Okay. And let's add a logout button because this is kind of getting annoying. So let's go to our home page. Here's my tabs, home page. And we're going to go up to our top here, and inside the toolbar, we're going to add Ion buttons. That's a button, and let's just call this. And let's send this to the end, so we can say slot. Put our logout button there, and we actually, I don't want that there. The proper way to do this is you wrap the whole thing with buttons, since you can potentially put multiple buttons over there. We see Ion buttons, and what we're going to do here is this is where we're going to put our slot end. And we're going to move this down here, and we get our logout button on the end. But we want our logout button to actually do something, and so let's do this. Click. So what we're going to do is on click, and we want to sign out, and we will do the same thing. So we'll say and we need to add that function Firebase signout. So we will go to our, let's give us some room. So we'll go to our Firebase services. We'll go down to our auth section, and we need our Firebase signout. This should be pretty straightforward. And we're just going to return sign out. And that needs our auth, so we'll do our get auth. And that's our sign out function. This is a promise, so let's do our await here. And let's make sure I name that properly in our home page. Firebase sign out. Sign in, sign up. Didn't I just name that sign out? Let's see. Firebase sign out. Export it. Copy. Save. And okay, so now we are on our home. All right, now it's complaining I need to import Ion buttons. So we can remove this one. All right, so let's log out. Oh, I was cheating. I tried to just do it with just doing a logout here, but that's not going to work. So let's change this and do on sign out. Add our function down here. Const on sign out. And we'll put our code in here that we wanted. And this is await. This is async. Down here we need to router. So let's import our router. think it can go up here. Use ion router, and down here we will const router, use ion router, and then let's add the router down here, router, place, and we'll go back to login. Okay, so we are at our home page. Oh, I forgot, it logged me out last time but didn't redirect, so that's why I added the redirect code here. Okay, so let's start at the top again. Let's sign in. It's not the right password. Let's get the correct password here. I'm signed in. I can see my content, log out. Oh, why am I saying log in? Sign in. All right, so over here, it's sign in. So now we're signing in. And let's do one last thing to confirm our rules are working. And what we'll do is we'll just call this function. So let's do this. All right, so we have no user here. And what we'll do is we'll just go to our sign-in page. And on this page, we're just going to call that function. We'll remove this later, but let's just put it here so we can show that it's not going to get me my data because I'm not logged in. Right? Notice return to promise. Oh, I can't do that here. So let's just put it in the old style. So remember, I'm just putting this in here to show that I can't access my data unless I'm logged in. All right, so this should not work if I am correct. So, and what does this thing give me back? This returns data or error. So let's say data error. And then what we'll do inside of here is we'll just console log error. So log data. And let's run it again. And my data is undefined, and my error, I'm getting this false for the list because it's basically saying you can't access that content. So that's showing that it's not working when I'm not logged in. And now let's sign in. And we are getting our data, and then I can log out again. And you can see when I logged out again, I'm getting my error. So we covered a lot here. Let's kind of clean this up and just remove this. Get everything back where we wanted it to be. We covered a lot here. I think in the next section, we're going to get our home page a little bit more set up. We're actually able to query data. So right now, we're just kind of dumping this data on the page. We want to kind of clean that up a little bit. And we'll do the rest of the CRUD. So we'll integrate our ability to add the documents, update documents, and delete documents. So we covered a lot. This is a big one. Hopefully you found this helpful. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.